Alright, hey guys. I kind of figured since I tend to personally, I tend to mix legs with core, I'm going to go ahead and go through, instruction that you might not have already gotten on core exercises, and we're going to start with the simple basics, and then we're going to go into some more things that are going to be a lot more advanced. So the first one is your crunch. Okay, so the thing is that you have this really couple muscles that tend to be tight in most people anyways, because we're sitting in chairs all day long and all that tend to stay in a shortened position and therefore lose flexibility and become tight. And those muscles are called your iliacus, psoas, rectus femoris, and so on. So these are in the hip flexor group, and what that means, hip flexing is the bringing of the knee up, right? Or the femur up, it pulls the femur up. So your iliacus and psoas, they attach, well, your iliacus attaches to your iliac crest, the top of your pelvis, right? And then the psoas attaches to your low back, both kind of feed up the front and then attaching to your legs. And so when those get tight and you kind of stand up, what you tend to get into is what's called this like anterior pelvic tilt, right? That's this position, right? So if I had a marble on the top of my pelvis, I'm going to feel this pinch here, and that marble's going to roll off to the front, right? Versus posterior pelvic tilt, which is the scared dog position, right? It's when you tuck your tailbone under and you get into that position. So the reason why we don't do sit-ups is because the primary muscle that's being worked there is going to be your hip flexors. And if you're running on treadmills especially, don't run on treadmills. It's bad for your knees and it's bad for your body in general, because the belt is carrying your leg back and then your hip flexors bring it forward. So you're not getting any of the back chain engagement, and so you're just going to make that anterior pelvic tilt worse. So if you're running on the street, that's perfectly fine because you're using your back chain, the muscles that pull you back into a neutral pelvic tilt. You're using those muscles to propel you forward, so it's a little bit better. So when I sit up, this is as far as my abs can get me. This is it. No higher, right? In order for me to get all the way up, I have to drop my pelvis onto the ground, right? And then I have to use those hip flexors to get me up. My abs are not getting any more work because I'm going all the way up. So if my key muscle that I'm trying to work here is this rectus abdominis. I want to try to make sure that I'm not giving it rest by going all the way up, right? And really what's going to happen is I want to think about connecting the base of my pubis to my sternum, right? So I'm bringing these 2 points together, right? And one way that you can kind of think about trying to keep engagement in your abs, and some people, they don't have the mobility for this. So people who are really out of shape or whatever, they may not be able to get much further than this because they may have fat in the way, especially fat up underneath the abdominals that are on the inside of your abdominal cavity, or other things that are kind of blocking you from getting up. Also, because the muscles aren't strong enough to get you higher up, and the stronger you get, the higher up you'll be able to get, the more flexion in that spine that you'll be able to get. So I'm going to think about not necessarily trying to lift my hips up, but I want to be able to slide a piece of paper all the way up to my low back without any friction at all. So my cheeks are touching the ground, but they're not taking any weight, right? Same thing here. And I want you to pay attention to this spot here, right in this low back. So you see how that has arched up and come off the ground? Part of that reason is because my abs are not engaged, and I'm rolling through that thoracic spine to get my shoulders all the way down to get a fuller range of motion. And really, from this point to this point, my abs are not engaged, right? I have to let them really go to get up to that point in the first place. So what I kind of want to do is I want to take a piece of paper here, and then I can actually touch my shoulder blades here. Like I can touch the ground with them, but they're not taking any weight. So that's where I am, is where the bottom of this wing of my scapula is. That's barely touching the ground. So from here, okay. Now, we talked a little bit on the last video about the concept of force arm, right? The longer the lever. So if I put my hands down here to come up, what's happening with this movement is that I'm counterweighting. So here's the fulcrum. I'm putting weight on this side of the fulcrum, and that's going to help get me up, right? So if I go here, all the weight's barely on this side of the fulcrum. Poof, poof,
That's harder, right? Because I'm moving the weight further away from my abs. If I go out here, I can already feel that that's burning, right? Now, I want to go ahead and get into a little bit of a pet peeve here. I know I do that a lot on this channel, but one of the movements that people tend to do a lot is like they might like do Russian twists from this position, right? Or they might do V-ups, right? They'll go all the way straight here and all the way up. And this goes into that force arm kind of concept when it comes to core. So generally speaking, like when you have your legs extended out, even if you have your hands under your hips here, right, you're still hanging all that weight on your low back, right? And that's why it's hard to not arch the back when your legs are fully straight. Now, this creates a little bit of a counterweight if you have a leg up. So we kind of keep equal tension here. I'm not putting a whole lot of weight on my low back when these are alternating like this. I don't want to, extend both. If anything, I would rather have you, coming up to this position and extending. And likewise, I don't want to go from here and come up into these V-ups or anything like that, because again, I'm using more of my my hip flexors than I am my abdominals to get up in that position, especially if you have issues with your low back. That's going to make it worse. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go on to my bicycle crunch. So I'm going to hit a little bit more of these anterior obliques here. So I like to keep my fingertips on the back of my head. I don't lace, so I'm not, jerking up on my head. And I'm going to put my boots on. Yes, we're going to say that a lot. So I'm here, I've got my feet flexed up. I'm not letting this knee past my hip, and you can't really see it, but my other leg is an inch off the ground. So I'm getting a lot of that abdominal engagement here. And I'm going to come up. And I want you to kind of see, I'm not really coming higher, I'm just getting that twist in my body, right? And I don't care about where your elbows go. You see, I didn't get any twist there. I went the wrong way, right? So on and so forth, and get a pretty good burn on your abs there. Now, to kind of move off of the abs here for a second, because we just did quite a few little crunches there, I'm going to go into a reverse plank, and this is going to be your kind of easiest way to do it. And I've got my mats right here. And I put my shoulders here, and I just hold this position, okay? I'm trying to keep a straight back. I can rest my head out. I'm not working that right now, right? And if I want to, I can, work my head flexors, a little bit of yeses here, no's, maybe, so on and so forth. But I'm just going to hold this position for about a minute. Now, to progress this movement, I'm going to get my physio ball. And I don't know how much of this is actually going to make it onto the video because my frame is a little bit closer. But I have a nice wide base with my legs. Just have my high shoulders on the ball. Now, you can do this without dumbbells to begin with. The wider your legs are, the easier this is going to be. So I'm going to keep a straight line with my back, and I'm going to drop my dumbbells down. Now, this is about 12 pounds here, and that's pretty advanced. Don't be upset. Like, this is hard to do as it is. Now, I'm focusing now. So I'm going to bring my arm below my shoulders so I'm not putting any undue stress on my humerus. And I'll do this for about a minute here. And so when we talk about what the spine actually does, or your core muscles do, we have flexion and extension of your spine. So the crunching forward is going to be flexion, extending back with your back to arch your back. That's going to be your extension. And then we have rotation, right? Moving side to side. And then we have what's called anti-rotation. So if somebody were to throw a ball at me and I don't want to lose control of it up that way, I'm going to resist from early on to kind of prevent that movement from happening, right? So anti-rotation is this concept of maintaining a strong core and trying to fight rotation. So another good example of this is if I was going to go into a physio ball plank. Now before I do that, I want to talk about normal plank mechanics. Right? I'm going to come into this position, and the thing that I see a lot is this, right? And people, I think, focus too much on how high their hips are. And I don't actually personally care about that. What I care about
is that arch in my back. You see how my back is arched inward, my butt's sticking up? I'm gonna tuck my tail like a scared dog. And that's going to kind of give me my abdominal engagement in this position. And it's going to take that pressure off my low back and my hips, right? It's kind of actually hard to lift my hips up if I'm, or even drop my hips down, if I'm maintaining that glute engagement and that anterior pelvic, or that posterior pelvic tilt, the scared dog position with my hips. So, to progress a plank, you can narrow your legs, your foundation. I'm completely spacing on the name right now. So, gait, whatever. So if I'm a beginner, I might start with my legs wide, come to narrow, come to here. Now you can also change that. This would be a, progression on your standard plank is alternating arms. I could do opposite arms, and believe it or not, you can do same side arms and same side legs. So we're going into that Superman position as a little bit of a progression onto that. So two variations on planks that I have mixed feelings about. One is going to be plank jacks, and the other is going to be a partner leg drop plank, where somebody's holding onto your legs and they'll randomly drop one. You don't want to do a leg drop plank unless you really, really, really have good abdominal strength. You can maintain that posterior pelvic tilt, that tail tuck the whole time, because what will happen is that people will drop that and it'll really, like, that psoas is going to tense up and whatnot, pull on that spine, and you're going to potentially damage your back. So, now we're going into plank jacks. Same deal, right? I want to maintain that tail tuck position as I go into that jack, right? You see that my low back is not giving, I'm not doing, this arch thing. I'm maintaining a nice, strong position. And that's a good way to kind of get that more core engagement and kind of progress that and get some more endurance in there. To go further, again, remember the goal of the spine is to also prevent rotation, so I can drop and drop, right? I can get this hip drop plank going, get a little bit more oblique action going. One that I do tend to like. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but this is same for push-ups, same for planks and whatnot. Notice that my elbow starts on the inside, right? I'm not starting out here. This is going to put a lot of shoulder, it's going to cause that shoulder to rise, it's going to destabilize it, put a lot of strain on that shoulder. So if I start on the inside here, you notice it's straight down now and my shoulder's engaged. So I'm getting into that side plank position. You can go here, you can go here, right? You can go here, drop down, boom, boom. Notice I'm trying to maintain that core engagement, so I'm not doing one of these. I see that a lot, where people pike up. Now, when we get into the side leg position, a lot of people will start in this pike position. I'm in this kind of V position, trying to get up. Gravity doesn't work that way, guys. You really want to kind of squeeze your glutes, just like when we were doing that glute exercise that Suzanne Summers thing earlier, right? I want to drive my hips forward and have my hips be vertical here, and then I can go up, and it's going to be actually easier and more effective. So you can do that little rotation there, you can do that hip drop, so a lot of little things that you can do there. You can add starfish to this, right? So I could come up, glutes, boom, I drop my hips there. Okay, so I am. And some of you are going to find, once you start doing that leg abduction, you're like, oh, well, my base is gone, and there's so much more core engagement that has to happen there. Okay, now I'm ready to bring out the physio ball. So, when I'm on a physio ball, a lot of people can come here, and this is a lot of cheats that people will do. They'll crunch up, and in doing so, they'll drop their hips down. So this is taking all the exercise out of it. So when I'm doing any type of crunch on a physio ball, whether it's straight up and down or some type of rotation here, I want to really make sure that my hips are staying up this whole time. And again, it's about bringing these 2 points together, right? Whether I'm doing a high five with a partner
or whatever, I really want to make sure that I'm keeping the small of my back on the ball. I'm not dropping my hips down. If you're up here, I'm past the axis of rotation. I'm past that hinge point, right? I want the hinge point, just like when I'm on the ground. My spine is rooted into the ground, it's rooted into the ball, right? If I'm on my thoracic spine, I'm not getting it. It has to be lumbar. So, rolling over. Now, for a Swiss ball plank, I want my weight coming in at an angle. And again, you see I have a wide base here, right? That's what the word I was looking for, base, okay? You can narrow it, that makes it harder. You can add jacks to this if you want to, that would probably be a little crazy, but I can also start stirring in the direction. I can do a figure 8, right? And I'm a crazy person, if you haven't figured that out yet. Back in the day when I was still working for 24 Hour Fitness, I would put my feet on a Bosu ball with the rubber side down and hold this plank, and maybe I'll do circles with that. And because both ends have that instability going on there, it feels like somebody's trying to rip your abdominals out in a good way. Like, it's not tearing, but it's definitely a harder thing. All right, the last one I'm gonna give you is going to be your Russian twist. And I know. This is a silly exercise that most people don't do right and doesn't do much for them. Okay, so the force for this exercise, actually I'm gonna throw in penguins as well, but the force for this exercise is gravity, right? So I want gravity to be able to work here, right? I'm just on my tailbone here, right? I'm just in this V position and I'm maintaining it. I can put my legs on the ground, whatever. But if you're up here, gravity's been taken out of the picture. You're not getting any work out of it. So I want to be in this kind of V position. I know what I said earlier. This one's so far has been relatively safe. So I want to get my back engaged. I don't want to be slouching into this. I want to have it nice, kind of straightish. And I'm going to pick up the ball. Now, you don't have to set up on the ground. It's a little bit easier if you don't, right? You're working more of that anti-rotation, that stopping if you don't. And see, I'm not going particularly fast. This is hard, right? I can also set down. I don't like when people bounce it because that bounce is doing all the work for me. So I like to set down, pick up. Alright, so there's your Russian twist. Last one's going to be your penguin. So for my penguins, you guys can't really see my toes. The higher off the ground you are, the more likely you're going to be able to touch that big toe. So a lot of people are like, I can't touch my big toe, but your thoracic spine, the ribby part of your spine, is on the ground. Right? I'm not doing the exercise. So I have a wide base. I'm up. Touch the big toe, big toe, big toe, big toe, and go for about a minute. Right? And that's going to be your penguin. So I hope this helps for you guys. I know that I just threw a lot of core exercises at you really quickly, some regressions and progressions of things. But these are really kind of really basic. And honestly, even with my more advanced clients, I tend to stick to basics a lot more than I used to. A lot of times it was like, I need to do this like big exciting thing that's definitely really, really hard. And the problem with that is people get injured. Even when they're more advanced. Like, I was having a discussion with my husband the other day when he was showing me a video of this really, really jacked guy doing all these core exercises, and going, why don't you have me doing these core exercises? This guy's jacked. And historically speaking, and I'll talk about this on my personal training channel when I get it up, but historically speaking, people would go to the gym and they would kind of look for the most jacked, ripped, shredded guy that they could find, and then they'd be like, okay, I want to get like you, so what do you do? And he shows them what his workout is of the day. Well, a big jacked guy, for one, might not actually know what he's talking about, because there might be some steroids involved there. He might be only working on a few key muscle groups and completely destroying his body with muscle imbalances and all that type of thing, losing mobility, causing frozen shoulder and other issues like that, thoracic outlet syndrome, all very common with bodybuilders. And he might just be regurgitating what somebody else told him. So being big doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the best of shape. It doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're doing. So
what happened a lot of times is people would these big people would show the little guys in the gym, well, this is my workout of the day, and he hand them the really heavy weight and give them minimal instruction and just go for it, and the next thing you know, you've got an injured shoulder, you have a herniated disc in your back, you've got bad knees, all kinds of things that are going to be coming out of trying to do those workouts like somebody who looks more advanced. So in this case, this person was doing a lot of those like pike ups and whatnot, using heavy balls, throwing it between his hands and his legs. This should be kind of what I'm talking about here. It's been a while since I've done it, so let's see if I can not hurt myself, but I've got the ball. And I can do this because I'm a personal trainer, because I'm somebody that has progressed through to be able to get to that level where I can do it. And even for me, I don't think it's a great idea, right? Basically what I'm saying is that these people have reached an advanced enough level that is somewhat safe for them to do, whereas for the general person, maybe not. So there's no problems with going with very basic exercises. You can get a long way. You can actually probably get to the same place that they are with very, very foundational movements, just like with jiu-jitsu. Coaches that I've had have all said, foundations, those little things that I've been showing you, talk about how to maintain, how to get in, do the transitions very cleanly. That's what's going to get you to progress, not the fancy gogoplatas and Imanari rolls and all that. I'm trying to prepare you to be able to do those kinds of things, but they shouldn't be the foundation of your jiu-jitsu. Just like these super advanced explosive movements don't necessarily have to be the foundation for your workouts. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. I hope that I've made a difference here, and I hope you guys enjoyed. So thank you very much. You guys have a good night, and maybe tomorrow I'll do an upper body day for you. All right, see you later.